Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
All right. Finally, beautiful to be outside in Wisconsin.
Yay! No more mucklucks.
Yes. And so Allison and I are in lovely northern Wisconsin.
Yes. And you can hear the birds in the background.
Yeah. And
Beautiful.
Wendy's back in the homestead.
I'm in my studio here in Madison still, but I do intend on getting outside today, so it's just a matter of time.
Yes, we've just before anybody can party on Memorial Day weekend, we have to talk about the Mandela effect.
I know, right? So we can, get everything that happens right in your memory.
And we will talk about that in a minute. But Wendy and I, we played a show last night at Bratfest, the world's largest Bratfest in Madison. Had a good time, and then afterwards we had a little paranormal adventure.
We did, yep. First we got a little country. It wasn't a Sunspot show. We were sitting in with another band from Madison here.
Yes.
Got a little bit country, and then afterwards we went to a place right by where the festival was happening, and that place is called the Wonder Bar.
Mm-hmm. Now the Wonder Bar dates back to it was built in 1929.
Right.
And
Do you have to say that with a German accent?
the Wonder Bar. No, because it was built by it was built by Italians.
Oh, go figure.
Yeah.
Well, they're
it
all
was built
European.
it was built by Italians from North Chicago who came over to Madison because they were
some wise guys.
yeah, well, Prohibition.
Absolutely.
But was it always called the Wonder Bar? That part I didn't pick
Wonder
up.
Bar.
It was called the Bar Next Door for a long time.
Oh, okay. So when it was
Okay,
founded,
tell
it
us the
probably
ghost
wasn't
story,
called
Mike.
the Wonder Bar.
Yeah, it wasn't like this place. It's so great. Like
Nein.
when Arnold first came there, he's like, this place is fantastic. I love the Wonder Bar.
So tell us about the salty pretzel ghost.
That's right. Believe me now and hear me later. I saw a ghost. No muscles. No, the idea is that during Prohibition, there are tunnels underneath the Wonder Bar that go to nearby Lake Monona.
Some subterranean
Places to sneak the booze in and out.
Yeah.
So people would come in on a boat or whatever, and then they'd sneak the booze in and out these
get the
tunnels.
hooch out.
Yes, and last night, the manager that was working was very knowledgeable about the history of the place, so it was fun to get to talk to him and hear some of that and learn a bit about a special Madison heritage location.
Yeah, and because it was right on the outside of town at the time. So now it's it's not too far away from the capital, but at the time it was considered out of town, like a couple miles out.
Yeah, and they could fit you easily for your cement shoes.
Well, that's the whole idea. Somebody supposedly buried in the fireplace.
Dun, dun, dun.
And people have seen like shadow figures on the upper level. They've heard a lot, like walking up there when there's nobody there. People are closing out, and there's somebody upstairs. It's the ghost.
Yeah, and they've seen plates rattling and stuff like that.
Yeah, the bartender last night was talking about how she's like, well, I never seen anything too weird, but I tell you, there was one time there was a stack of 4 plates that was just, there was no train or anything coming by. It was just rattling.
Yes, rattling plates.
And she said that freaked her out a little bit.
So it was trying to lift up and hit her in the head, I bet.
No, the ghosts are friendly.
Yeah. Right. It just was like, hey, I'm over here with the plates.
Yeah. So Casper was iced by the North Chicago mob in the late 1920s.
Yeah.
And that's
it's
where he
nothing
lives.
personal. It's just business caps. It's just business caps, Casper.
Yeah. And so they killed Casper, and he lives at the Wonder Bar in Madison.
That's just sad.
But the manager, Jacob, he showed us around the different. He said that one of the first weeks he started working there, that the owner's like, oh yeah, there's there'll be a paranormal investigators coming in here to check it out.
Nice.
So just don't worry about it.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Hey,
forget about it.
what about doing using ground penetrating radar or something like that, like to see if there are bodies? I mean, it's in the fireplace, so.
But I'm sure there are bodies because it was a couple miles out from Madison. So this would be a great place to leave your dead
Business, your unsavory business.
But that was just a fun little paranormal trip we didn't expect to be able to take.
I'm a little jealous.
After the show. And so, anyway, that was just a fun little thing. And, the thing is, what we're talking about today, we're talking about the Mandela effect, that people remember things differently. The last time I went to the Wonder Bar and I asked the bartender about any kind of ghost stories, he's like, "Oh, it's all crap."
Yeah.
That's when it was the bar next door, not the Wonder Bar. So they had a different attitude towards ghost stories than the new people did, and so that the bartender was like, "Oh yeah," so he never had anything, or maybe he misremembered.
Right. Or, something we've talked about before as well, the power of belief.
Right.
To either, send results in one direction or another.
Well, I've found in my experience that when you ask people at establishments like that, you've got like a 50-50 chance. So, some people just aren't open to the suggestion of, anything paranormal.
Right.
And they'll just
They're
shut
really
you down right
closed.
away. And then, okay.
Yeah.
But, if you're lucky, you'll get somebody who might be open to it, and then you get cool stories sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, I
And
think
then the fun begins.
in this environment too, especially Madison's a city. It's a lot of university people, a lot of liberals and stuff. And because it's kind of aligned on the side of the culture war, the liberals are kind of aligned with the atheists, and the conservatives are kind of aligned with the the paranormal people, the conspiracy theorists.
You think
and
so? I always thought it was opposite.
Because it was opposite when we were younger.
Okay.
And it's completely changed around.
Really?
To where obviously people kind of pick teams, especially in a city like Madison, of whatever side of their culture war is. And so sometimes saying like you believe in ghosts or the paranormal, we used to think of like freewheeling hippies and things like that, being like, "Oh yeah, man, I seen a ghost, brother. Pass me a doobie." Like,
but now they're like, all listening
Like
to NPR,
Richard-
and
right.
they're like, forget that noise.
Richard Dawkins says there's no such thing as ghosts, and and
So people are really malleable along with their memories.
yes, well that's one thing. But okay, we've already done an episode on false memories.
If you guys want to check that episode out, it is episode 55, and you can find it at othersidepodcast.com/55.
We talked about alien abductions. We talked about the satanic ritual abuse of the 1980s, that people actually went to prison over
Yeah.
these like created memories in children.
I know.
Which is the McMartin case, which is crazy. I think they're making either a documentary or a movie like dramatization of the McMartin case, where it was a preschool where they said the preschool was run by Satanists.
Which is a great gig if you can get it.
Satanists were like abusing the children who went to the
Hey,
preschool.
I'm looking for another job. Let's do it.
Also, and I've got my daughter turns 20 months today. And so we like the preschool she's going to,
Yeah,
but
but-
I'm kind of concerned that it's not run by Satanists. And so
You're like that's one of your criterion.
right, some people are looking for like a Christian preschool. I'm looking for a Satanist preschool.
You're looking for. Does it have that statue of Baphomet like right in the doorway,
back.
welcoming the children?
Are they right? Well, the whole thing is like I think what I'd like the best is that the kids that are slow, like the slowest in the contests, or they're not picking up on things, they become the sacrifices.
Oh,
So
Oh,
only the
Mike.
best survive at Devil Academy,
That
right?
survival
Oh.
of the fittest.
So okay, he's got 20 words and you have 19. Guess you're gonna sleep in the arms of Ball tonight. Anyway, okay. But we're distracted. So we already had the whole episode on
Demons are distracting.
false memories. And this was kind of before this became like a thing. So we did that episode around 2015. And right around, I don't know, I'd say spring of 2016, I think Dave Schrader from Darkness Radio featured it in one of his, when he guest hosted on Coast to Coast. And then people started talking about the Mandela effect.
Really?
And if you guys want-
I remember it differently.
Okay.
I think it came about earlier.
I do think that it did come about earlier. So you remember it, hearing about it.
I was
just
wrong.
Years and years and years ago.
Okay, so that's the first time I remember hearing the terms Mandela effect. But I've thought about false memories and stuff for a long time because
Oh,
we
yeah.
talked about it in psychology class.
Yeah.
And we even talked about alien abductions and the research that Dr. Elizabeth Loftus had worked on in false memories. And one of my classmates eventually worked with her on some of that research in the early 2000s. So you remember hearing about it a long time ago. And I guess that the term was first coined in 2010.
See, there you go.
Okay. So by a woman named Fiona Bloom, a paranormal consultant. And I didn't know you could become a paranormal
I was just
consultant.
gonna
Like I didn't know
say.
that was a job.
That's cool.
And so I guess once I'm done working at the satanic daycare,
Right.
my
Hook
next
me
job
up.
will be paranormal consultation. So anyway, Fiona Broome was the first one to coin that after she started talking to people who seemed to remember that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1980s.
And is it Broom or Bloom? I think we're remembering it differently.
Okay, Fiona Broome. All right. I also could have just read that wrong. I don't think I remembered it incorrectly. I think I just read it wrong. Now, what's your first memory of Nelson Mandela?
That's a good one. I don't, I'm not one of those people who thinks that he died in prison.
No, didn't you used to have like
Yeah.
an apartheid poster on your wall? Like an
Probably.
anti-apartheid poster.
Yeah, I'm not like, yay, apartheid.
It was no, you had like a poster like on your door or whatever that said
Sure.
Mr. Botha, free the people.
Yeah, probably. I just remember, boycotting certain items like Coca-Cola. And I also remember the boss having a song that he did about
Bruce
I won't
Springsteen?
play, Sun City.
Oh, okay.
So it's a musical memory. So that's what comes to mind for me when you think about Nelson Mandela and also his wife Winnie Mandela. I remember stuff about her. Yeah, I don't. I'm not one of those people that thinks that he died in prison, but I mean he could have. I mean he was there for
27 years.
27 years.
Wendy, what's your memory of Nelson Mandela?
Just learning about him in school,
yeah.
basically. I don't have a ton of memories about him.
I remember hearing the name when I was a kid. The first time I remember was actually he was freed. I remember when he was freed, and they, he was like on the
yes.
cover of Time magazine in like 1994. Whenever he was freed,
Yeah,
I remember him
and-
being on the cover of Time magazine, and I remember thinking, "Wow, that guy's skinny," because you saw the pictures of early Nelson Mandela, and he's got a full beard, kind of a thicker face, thicker body, and everything. And then after 27 years in the clink, he comes out as a skinny guy, and I remember thinking, like, is that the same guy? Because I remember
Yeah.
seeing, as a kid, you see those pictures, and you're like, that's not the same guy.
Doesn't
That's
look like
just
him.
some dude,
They swapped him out like Paul McCartney.
right?
When he died in prison, they swapped him out with another one.
But I mean, the kind of stuff that Nelson Mandela endured in prison, obviously, I mean, they're not feeding him like a champion.
No,
and they're
yeah.
treating him horribly. And
Yeah.
I remember the worst horror story I remember hearing about Nelson Mandela is reading that they buried him up to his head.
Oh my goodness.
In the dirt.
No.
Oh man,
They
like
buried-
Cat's Eye.
Yeah. Well, no, you're thinking of Creepshow.
Oh, Creepshow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember, like Leslie Nielsen buries Ted Danson up to his
I
head,
remember
and then the
that.
waves come in.
Yeah.
I had
That's
nightmares
Creepshow?
about
That's not
that.
Cat's Eye?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's Creepshow.
Oh, we remember it differently.
But that used to scare the crap out of me. That and the Tasmanian Devil from Creepshow scared the crap out of
Yeah,
everybody.
wait for the tide to come in. So they buried him up to his neck.
And then they took a whiz on him. Oh. And that's what kind of guards, that's what kind of people you were dealing with when you dealt with the South African government and apartheid.
Well, I guess it's better than having, fire ants attack you or something like
Right,
that.
but it's a horrible kind of torture, and psychologically, how demeaning to do
Yeah.
that to a human being. And,
Absolutely.
And so they called the Mandela effect because some people, when you hear those stories about the torture and the things he went through in the South African prison, thinking that he died in prison isn't too far off.
Yeah, but I remember, when he came into office.
Right, he
And
became the president of South Africa.
I know.
He was
what
the guy
a
they
turnaround that is.
He's the guy they
so
peed on,
uplifting.
became the president, and so
I know.
and,
yeah.
and so the entire South African
So
narrative changed.
It's amazing how people don't remember that uplifting moment, and they're thinking about ultimate defeatism rather than what really happened.
Sure.
Which was turning it completely around.
So we all remember Nelson Mandela surviving, and then you're right, and then
Absolutely.
being freed from prison,
That's a huge moment.
and then apartheid ending.
Yeah.
And then South Africa now rejoining because South Africa couldn't participate in the World Cup, they couldn't participate in the Olympics. There was a whole these things that South Africa couldn't participate in because of apartheid.
Yeah.
That they were kept out of the community of nations.
So the eyes of the world were on
Yeah.
them, and the judgment was laid down, and then they had to change, and they did.
Yeah, and now they obviously they still have issues and stuff like that. As
Right.
represented, you ever see District 9?
District 9, I was just thinking of that. Yeah, District 9 is such a good movie. In that the parallels of, science fiction is at its best when it teaches you about real life issues that are going on right now. And I felt you
Sure.
got a lot of higher truths in District 9.
Well, it's just like Captain Kirk bringing the races together by getting on with green skin aliens. Like I think that
he's there for you, baby.
I think Captain Kirk really did it. So the first time I really heard about the Mandela effect was in 2016, and the Nelson Mandela thing. I'm like, okay, that's obviously ridiculous. Those people just didn't pay attention in school,
Right.
But what's something that did get me was the Berenstain Bears.
Oh man.
Okay, so what about them?
So I had a Berenstain Bears. I think it was actually a book on a haunted house. It was like Berenstain Bears went to a haunted house, and that was the only Berenstain Bears book I ever had. But I remember they had them in school, and I always remembered it spelled Berenstein, Berenstein, and it was spelled out in like a cursive kind of thing, the Berenstain Bears or whatever. But then when you actually look at how they spelled it, it was Berenstain, like you stained your shorts.
With an A in it?
Right, guys? I'm not alone here, right?
With an A?
Yeah, I remember it too. I was also, that got me too. I remembered it being spelled with an E.
It's
not
with an A?
But
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm actually blowing my sister's
wait,
mind.
I don't even. I thought it was an E.
I can't
as
even
well.
read, and I thought it was an E.
because I feel like I remember people,
Oh, Mike, I'm gonna
some people
punch you.
pronouncing it Berenstein.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like when you first looked at it, it's like, no, it's Berenstain, man. But
But it looks like
it's still spelled with an E.
Yeah. So why do I remember that if it's not the case?
Something's going on.
Yeah.
Something's going on.
So that was the first time I was like, I just got the Mandela effect.
Does the font look like an E?
Well, we can take a look at it, but
Yeah, you should put it in the show notes, definitely. To see. Yeah, I'm really perplexed by that. I thought for sure
yeah,
it's an E.
and that was the first time. That's what got me interested. I think that's what got a lot of people interested in the Mandela effect.
No, it totally doesn't
Because-
look like an E at all. It's clearly an A. So it's not just a matter of being
Okay.
confused like by the cursive writing.
Yeah, and so we just completely misremembered
And
that.
how are you supposed to pronounce it then?
Well, it's Berenstain. I mean, because it's stain.
It's the way it looks.
But because if we said it different, if we said it like Shel Silverstein
Yeah.
Stein.
or Frankenstein, then it would be with an E. But Berenstain obviously has an A.
And so how were people? So we remembered written. How was it pronounced in your memory?
Well, it was to me, it was always a Berenstain Bears. So in my memory, it's spelled differently than it's said. And this is where I think we get into the issues with Mandela effect, because every time we see the word somebody with the last name Stein, Silverstein, or Frankenstein, or anything
Yeah.
like that,
So many
or
times.
Goldstein,
Yeah.
it's always
more commonly.
Yeah, that's true.
Stein.
Right.
And so that our brains are trained to just know that, oh, Andrew Goldstein. That's obviously, it's not S-T-I-N-E.
So our brains just don't know how to spell Bernstein or Bernstein.
Berenstain. Or
Stained.
well, and this is where we talk about memory being not something that is etched in stone, but something
Malleable.
that is recreated every time. Yeah.
Also, we were young,
Right. Like, what did I know?
and also like
Yeah.
a lot of time has passed before the question was asked, on the internet.
It's been
through a
30 years.
meme. So, right, for the people who read that as a child, it was quite a while ago, so there was plenty of time for that memory to to be molded.
To alter.
Right.
Yeah.
Or-
Shuffle around a bit.
Or to be rewritten. And this is the problem we talk about someone that's an eyewitness to an event. Or somebody who, because I think my memory is excellent. And most people I know would attest to that my memory is excellent. Mm-hmm.
But most people say that too.
Right. I'm an excellent driver.
Yes.
Thank you, Rain Man. But the thing is, like, the idea of a photographic memory, that you remember certain things and you can still picture it in your head. Well, it's not like there's a drawing of that. It's not like you took a photograph and then it's in your head. What you are remembering is what you saw, and then your memory of that is being recreated every time you think about it. So that can be completely altered, because memory is not something that is written down in your brain. Oh, this happened to me, now it's written down. Every time you visit that memory, you are rewriting it.
Yeah.
And so every time I thought about the Berenstain Bears, which was maybe 6 times in 30 years, until people were like, "It's spelled with an A. Holy crap!"
Who changed history?
Right. Every time it's done like that, it's your brain which is going back and thinking about it, and it's using all it's learned since then to recreate that memory. And so in your head, you're like Berenstain, like Frankenstein, like Goldstein, like anything.
So that's what's happening in my mind right now.
Well, right, because that's
That's what's blowing my little mind.
because you are recreating something.
Yeah.
And that's the whole issue. So in movies and film, this is all based on like the movie Rashomon, which is this Japanese film where you see perspectives of the same event from several different people. And we've seen that in countless TV shows and films where they show the same thing happening through the eyes of the different characters.
Yeah. Yeah, like they did that on the X-Files a bunch, and that was... Those are the best episodes that are so metacognitive like that.
Right. And that's why we have to have a variety of witnesses to prove anything. Because if you just rely on one witness, that person could be... They have one perspective and somebody else has a different perspective. First time I remember a TV show doing that was the Different Strokes. Did that, and they had
Different Strokes.
yeah,
It was metacognitive.
with Different Strokes was very influenced by classic film. No, it wasn't. It wasn't some great meaning to what you're talking about, Willis. Isn't Gary Coleman dead?
What?
Yeah,
He is
he's
dead. I'm not misremembering that.
And
right?
and the
Todd
girls,
Bridges.
Todd Bridges is dead
No,
too?
maybe Todd Bridges is still alive.
Okay,
Dana
'cause
Plato's dead. Dana
Dana
Plato's dead.
Plato's dead. It's the curse of Different Strokes.
Right. Well, I mean, it's all the horrible things that happen to child stars happen in one
Yeah.
TV show. Like Todd Bridges might not be dead, but he held up like a Burger King, didn't he?
I don't know. Now I'm concerned about the welfare of Todd Bridges.
You should be. No, I think he turned his life around like a motivational speaker or whatever now, and he's trying to live a good life after having a rough time after Different Strokes. But anyway, Different Strokes showed that. Like I remember like an episode where something happens and then everything happens from each person's perspective, and they redo it. And then like Arnold makes himself out like a hero and stuff like that because that's the character Gary McCollum played.
He's 52. I think he's still alive.
Okay, good. His Wikipedia doesn't say deceased. It'll have a
No, yeah, Wikipedia says that he's still alive.
Okay. Well, it's funny. I mean, because memory is like Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. Because Wikipedia is constantly being rewritten, and people are going in and constantly changing things. And then other people are coming in and trying to make it as true as possible. So that's what your memory's doing. So every time you go back and revisit a memory, you're recreating it. And over time, things that didn't happen or things that weren't even part of that happened, but you think they might have happened, they get written into as well. And then you start remembering that as part of it. And so that's part of the problem with memory, and as we talk about the false memory. But let's talk about some other examples that people had with the Mandela effect. So obviously Berenstain Bears is what got me. Nelson Mandela is what got people originally. There's also seems to be a misremembering of how you spell Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
Like
Okay, so how else could you spell it? Is it like Loop Guru?
no,
like-
the loops part is the same.
and instead of what is it, a toucan? It's a psychedelic werewolf. it's Fruit Loops with the
L-O-U-P-S.
Yeah.
And that's a psychedelic werewolf, which I would,
I think
my nose, it always smells people before I eat them.
I think somebody should totally do a T-shirt. That's awesome. Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
And a psychedelic werewolf.
Right, and
That's
he's
great.
got a multicolored nose or multicolored teeth or something like that before he bites in. No, but some people remember Fruit Loops spelled like fruit, F-R-U-I-T,
Yeah.
but it's spelled fruit, F-R-O-O-T.
Oh, so it's not the loops. It's the
Right,
fruit.
and the logo.
Okay,
Berries
darn.
and fruit are made out of Fruit Loops. It's so meta.
Yeah. Hey. Also, that's something that Kellogg's can trademark.
Yeah.
So it's just like the Sci-Fi channel. You know how now it's a Sci-Fi with
Yeah.
S-Y-F-Y? Mm-hmm. Well, Universal did that. NBC Universal did that so they could trademark then Sci-Fi.
I see.
So before, you can't trademark SCI-FI,
Right.
Sci-Fi, but you can trademark sci-fi. And so Kellogg's probably can't trademark Fruit Loops, but they can trademark Fruit Loops.
Right, with like the Groot spelling.
Yeah,
of,
the Groot spelling.
of fruit.
I am fruit.
Okay, so which way is it spelled now? I'm just-
F-R-O-O-T.
What?
When did you say with the O's or Fruit Loops?
It is spelled with the double O.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I thought all this.
Allison comes into this Mandela effect thinking that it's all crap.
I was like, this is crap, Mike. Why are we going to do a show on this? And then I'm like, what? They don't spell it with a double O. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you guys just blew
There
my
you go.
mind.
Yeah, and now you're
Allison's
now
our
you're getting
test
it.
case.
Where's that psychedelic werewolf? He's going to eat my brain.
Right. The brain is already. I can see it in your ear. I can already see the brain leaking out the side of your ear. Some of the other stuff people misremember. This one I get is "We Are the Champions" by Queen. They always remember the very end of "We Are the." So you guys know that song. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
Of the world.
Allison.
At the very end of the song, there's no "of the world." He just does that before the guitar solo and before the last chorus. So at the very end of the song, there
It's
is no
just-
"of the world." It's just "We are the champions." ...
Stop.
Okay, so
Next
So
classic rock song.
it is earlier in the song.
Yes, he
though.
definitely does it.
Okay, so yeah, I don't.
So people were like, no, they finish it up. He's like, "Of the world." No, he doesn't do it at all.
Oh, did they say that to you, Mike? Why didn't you do it right? What? You suck at covers.
No, we don't play "We Are the Champions"
Okay.
because we're not a cover band. But
I know, right? But you have
We do play Fat Bottom
covers
Girls,
at times.
play-
She's got
We
a
do play
point.
Fat
I
Bottom
know,
Girls,
right?
all right.
I thought for sure you played "We Are the Champions."
yeah, you're just misremembering. No, but that's the thing. People have heard it, and they just assume because it's the end of one chorus, it's the end of L choruses.
Right.
So if you ask some of the regular person who's like, "Does 'We Are the Champions' end on champions or world?"
They'll
just
say
think,
world.
"We are the champions of the world." And also there's like a stop there before it goes into that
Right.
very last chorus. So that's
Yeah.
that stop makes it think like,
Fake
well, that's the end of the song.
ending.
And to me, like examples of an alternate timeline, if you think "We Are the Champions" ends with "of the world" and that is an alternate timeline, you've been
Duped.
yeah, right. You are a dupe. No, so this is one of the explanations of the Mandela effect when people talk about it. They're like, well, the idea of multiple universes is that we make a decision, and every decision we make, we could have gone one way or we could have gone the other.
Branches upon branches.
Branches upon branches. I first read about this idea in Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time.
Ooh.
And he talked about multiple universes. And the
Yes.
idea of multiple universes is that we make a decision, then there's another universe where the other decision is made. And everything branches off of that. Now, that would be, there's an infinite amount of universes because there's an infinite amount of different decisions that could have been made.
Absolutely. How do you keep them all straight?
But you can't, which is why Sliders sucked.
Oh.
But if you guys remember the TV show Sliders, this idea they could go between universes, and they would have to they were trying to get back to the original universe, our universe, and every episode they'd have to get through some hijinks in the parallel universe and get to the next one. But I'm always mad about it because Fox had two options in 1996 to go with series. One was Sliders, and the other was Doctor Who.
Oh.
And they picked Sliders.
So you're still bitter.
Of course,
you're
I'm still
bitter
mad about that.
so many
I'm
things.
still mad about Jerry O'Connell. I won't watch. I won't.
He holds grudges.
Yeah, I'm definitely holding a grudge against Jerry O'Connell. I won't go back and watch that Stephen King movie he's in where he's the fat kid because I'm angry about it.
Which movie is that?
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. Okay.
I'm just kidding. I will watch it. I think Stand By Me is a great movie. But I was just picturing not watching anything Jerry O'Connell's in ever again. So in the parallel universe I wanted to live in had Doctor Who instead of Sliders.
Oh,
In
right.
1996.
Yeah. And what about the Man in the High Castle? Or is it the Man in the...
No, it's The Man in the High Castle. It's
Okay.
another show.
Yeah.
It's a parallel universe where the Nazis won the Second World War. But they deal with the whole idea is that there is some footage of our universe where the Nazis were crushed by the Allies in 1945, and that footage makes it into the parallel universe.
I love that show. I hope that season 3 is coming soon.
Okay, I watched the first season and I thought it was boring, but
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? Oh, come on.
I thought the acting was excellent. I just thought it was boring.
No, I love it. I think it's really compelling, and that idea that these people are suffering under the Third Reich, and they're like oh my gosh, there's another possibility.
Right, there's a world where this never happened.
Right.
There's a world where Fruit Loops is spelled UI.
And all is right with the universe.
So, that's one of the ideas, that these people are remembering something that happened in a parallel universe. They're, that these are parallel, like they're remembering something that happened. There's another universe where Fruit Loops is spelled with a UI. There's another universe where Eric Stoltz played Marty McFly in Back to the Future instead of, because remember, Eric Stoltz was the original actor in Back to the Future, and they started filming with him.
Really?
But the executives just didn't think that he was working out.
Oh, that's
as
so
Marty
sad for
McFly.
They
him.
decided to go another way.
He was playing it too serious or whatever was happening. They didn't feel like he was right, and Robert Zemeckis didn't feel like he was right for the role. And then
You
they
need
switched.
somebody goofier.
And they gave it to Michael J. Fox.
There you go.
And now, actually, I think it was in Fringe. Now, Fringe dealt with parallel universes.
Oh yeah, that was another.
And I don't want to
show.
spoil too much about Fringe if you guys haven't seen it, because Fringe was a real delight, and it's still modern enough that you can get it on. You can watch them all on Netflix, or whatever, and you'll enjoy it. It's got Pacey from Dawson's Creek, and he's great. Anna Torv, the actress in there.
Olivia.
I love
Olivia.
She starts out as really you're like wooden and stuff, and then you realize why she did it that way as you watch the series, and you realize she's awesome. So anyway, watch Fringe; it's great. But they go into a parallel universe where Eric Stoltz is still.
They do?
Yeah, well, it's just in the background or whatever.
Oh my gosh, I totally missed that.
I think it's on Fringe, but there's one parallel universe movie or TV show where Eric Stoltz stars in Back to the Future and not Michael J. Fox.
Is that the one with the alternate?
Yes.
Oh, I love the alternate.
And Fringe is something that really gets into parallel universes, and that idea that there's these little differences. The Department of Defense is inside of the Statue of Liberty in the other universes and things in Fringe.
Yeah, and what about all the airships?
Airships, the Twin Towers are still up.
Right.
And that's the idea, that people are remembering things that happen in these alternate universes. And that's part of the Mandela effect. Like, could it be parallel universes? Well, it could be. But do you think parallel universes really changed the line in Empire Strikes Back from, "No, I am your father," to "Luke, I am your father"? That's another thing people misremember.
Wait. Okay, so which one is it?
Well,
really?
it's "No, I am your father." Not, he never says, "Luke, I am your father."
Oh, you got me again. Really? It's not Luke, I am your father?
No, it's "No." I can't do James Earl Jones. I can't even do Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I'm like, "No, I am your father."
How about do Darth Vader as Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Luke, I'm
there
your
it is.
father.
I swear it's that.
That's what it actually was.
That's the more authentic one, for sure.
Actually, in the parallel universe where Arnold Schwarzenegger does the
Darth
voice
Vader.
of Darth Vader, I find your lack of faith disturbing. Do not underestimate the power of the dark side. So, yeah, there's a parallel universe where Arnold Schwarzenegger does the voice of Darth Vader, and that's how I remember it.
Nice. Okay. But it's not Luke, I am your father.
No, it's "No, I am your father." But the thing is, think about how many TV shows and comedians and people have parodied that. And if you say to somebody, "No, I am your father," you're like, "Okay, where's that from?" But if you say right away, "Luke, I am your father," you know exactly what they're talking about.
Right.
course.
So you think that people rewrote it so that they could immediately get people to think of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I
so
mean,
they just
I think-
rewrote it that way because it was clear.
I think the first example of that's probably Strange Brew.
Oh yeah, Strange Brew.
Strange Brew. Strange
All the movies of our childhood.
Right, so Strange Brew is a movie based off the SCTV. SCTV was a TV show in the late 70s and early 80s. This hilarious Canadian TV show with Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, Martin Short. Oh, who else? I mean, Eugene Levy.
Yeah.
John Candy. Like
Yeah.
all these guys got their start in SCTV. And these super famous comedians, and then they made a movie about these two Canadians, Doug and Bob McKenzie, who had they had a public access show called The Great White North, and they would just make jokes like Canadian stereotype jokes, and they made a movie out of it called Strange Brew, where they try to get free beer by putting a mouse inside a beer bottle. And that was their plan. Be like, there's a mouse inside this beer bottle, and they were gonna get free beer from the brewery, but it ended up being an evil brewery owned by Max von Sydow. And there's this whole scene where they suit up for a hockey match, and it's like this black armor that one of the Strange Brew guys gets in. This hockey outfit is like this black armor, and the first joke he makes is, "Luke, I am your father." when they're joking around with each other, and so it's just we remember that, and so you remember it as Luke, I am your father. He never says it. It's like imagining Sherlock Holmes saying "elementary, my dear Watson."
Oh, no.
He never said that. No. He never said, that was never in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's original work. So he never says, "It's elementary, my dear Watson."
Was it in a movie or something?
Yeah, I believe that it was from one of the Basil
Rathbone
movies in the 1940s.
I see.
Just like that was the first time he ever wore that deerstalker cap, was in those movies.
But that's not a Mandela effect, because that's, most people haven't read the book probably, right?
Sure. But it's just, we remember that as something. So if you would have said what's the famous line from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's novel or Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, you'd say it's elementary, my dear Watson. But it never was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's.
That would be a trick question for trivia.
Right. And it never was his dialogue. So that's another, we remember the things that happen afterwards and people retelling and stuff just like they happen in
the retelling. Just
Yes.
like our memory is a sort of retelling as well.
So the Luke, I am your father is an example of that Mandela effect.
This is a really provocative topic. I'm surprised.
I don't know if it's provocative, but the idea that we rely on our memories for a lot of things, and it's just not accurate.
And everything you think you know is wrong.
Well, yeah. Okay, so if you think about Field of Dreams, the famous line from Field of Dreams, if you build it,
They will come.
Yeah, they will. Who's they?
They won't come? What's it actually?
Who's they
I
won't
don't
be
know,
anywhere.
people?
Okay, so
What?
remember,
is that wrong?
Yeah,
It's not if you build it, they will come.
correct.
What is it then?
If you build it,
Oh, you're turning my world upside down.
if you build it, he will come.
He will. Your dad.
That's
the
right.
dad.
That's the point. So it's not. He thought it was going to be Shoeless Joe Jackson was the guy that would come in the 1919 Red Sox. Red Sox. The 1990 White Sox,
Yeah.
also known as the Black Sox, because of the scandal or whatever. But that was the idea. He will come with his father shows up at the end, right? I don't mean to spoil Field of Dreams if you haven't seen it, but I just ruined Field of Dreams for you. But it's still a wonderful movie. And it really is one. I thought it was going to be cheesy or whatever, and I don't like sports movies usually. But I remember seeing it when I was like 12.
Lots of it was filmed in Elgin, Illinois, the town parts.
Oh.
Yep.
So when they say it's not heaven, he's like, is this heaven? He goes, no, it's Iowa. It's like,
Well, I think that was actually Iowa, but
Okay.
the town parts were
is
in
this
Elgin,
heaven?
Illinois.
No, it's Elgin. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Elgin's close to heaven.
Well, they do have a ghost tour.
Oh, all right. So you can get a little toast. You can get a little toast to Elgin heaven, right there with Kevin Costner. But we remember that though, because how many times have you heard in a discussion of something? Oh yeah, if you build it, they will come. Like if you make something, when people are talking about like a new stadium or talking about a new business or whatever, they use that reference from the movie, and they don't say he. Because
Because that wouldn't
doesn't
make
make
sense.
sense.
They're not
in
talking
a
about Kevin-
different context.
They're not talking about Kevin Costner's father.
Right.
They're talking about a crowd. So if you build it, they will come. Like that. And so we're remembering people making riffs on that piece of pop culture. And that's how we remember it. So now when we think about Field of Dreams, we think they instead of he when it's a completely wrong word.
Nice.
Yeah. There's some more examples of the Mandela effect. This is another sci-fi related one. And this one I wasn't sure of until I went back. C-3PO had a silver leg.
What?
I remember that actually. Was it leg or I remember a limb being a different color.
Being silver. Yeah, okay. And I kind of remember that too. But the toys of C-3PO
Do not.
had him being completely gold.
Oh, manufacturing cost.
Yeah.
So isn't he completely gold?
No, he's got
No.
a silver leg.
Didn't know that either. Boy, I'm just not paying
And
attention.
Allison, you were the Star Wars girl.
I know, right?
And so
Star Wars 24/7.
So people remember, obviously, if you ask, is C-3PO gold all over? You'd be like,
Yes, baby.
Oh, he's
yes.
gold. He's gold everywhere.
Another trick question for the trivia people.
Yeah. Like, oh no, he's got a silver leg, baby. Yeah, so he's got a different colored leg. And you can see it if you look carefully in the movie. And I remember because I watched the first, I taped Star Wars, I videotaped Star Wars when it was first on TV, like 1983 or whatever.
And you watched it every day.
And I watched it every day after school for like 6 months.
Because he's that much of a geek.
Yeah. So I remember taping it and then just watching it over and over. And then so I remember C-3PO from the movie. So my memory of C-3PO isn't from the toy. It's from watching the film like 75
And
times.
it's from like the knee down that his leg is silver. It's not his whole
Yeah.
leg.
So it's not like, so you'd have to be looking for the details.
Right.
But that's another thing is that the mind completes it. The mind completes the memory for itself. And there's an effect that it's called, it's the Deese, Roediger, and McDermott paradigm. Okay? And so, yes, it's very, very,
That'll be on the test.
very easy off the lips, isn't it? Denise Roediger and McDermott paradigm. So what that says is that your mind will complete the memory for you. So let's say I show you a list of words, and that list of words is bed, pillow, mattress, dreams. Later on, when you're thinking of that list of words, you all of a sudden remember that I included the word sleep on that list. But the word sleep wasn't on the list. It's just what everything else inferred.
Makes sense.
Right. So, I mean, the value of looking into the Mandela effect is that it helps you understand that your perception can be faulty. And,
Absolutely.
And that we need to think critically about, what we think we experienced.
Well, I mean, think about deja vu.
Right. And I was just having a problem. What was the effect called again? That we're battling?
Denise Roediger and McDermott
Yes. So
paradigm.
yeah, so that paradigm is giving me trouble right now because so deja vu, where you think you've visited some place before, or there's supposed to be multiple types according to Arthur Funkhauser.
Oh, Arthur Funkhauser.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a sweet name. I want to just marry him so my last name can be Allison Funkhauser.
Yeah. Well, I think his early albums are better than his later albums. But I
Right,
mean,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a Funkhauser purist.
Right. So he's a Swiss researcher who believes that there's many forms of deja vu. But I was just having trouble remembering his name because I wanted to say Albert Funkhauser so bad. But, I had to like really fight to because I was like, my brain wants to say Albert, but it's Arthur Funkhauser. So, it's just that it starts with an A.
But
and so
it's also because he's Swiss, though. So when you think of European names,
Right.
Albert
seems more commonly Swiss than Arthur.
Arthur, right. Arthur seems more like an
Nice.
English name.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, okay, this is my favorite Swiss R&B band, Albert Funkhauser. when it's really Swiss researcher Arthur Funkhauser.
Right.
And
Yes.
so now people, when you guys will be thinking about this
You're
later,
like, I'm sure it was Albert.
and I'm sure he played bass.
But anyway, yeah, like this whole discussion seems similar to other discussions we've had before about deja vu, and people scientists are trying to understand that. And, there's a lot of speculation.
It's not just a
though.
glitch in the Matrix?
Yeah, well, apparently not. I mean, scientists have other explanations for it, and that it might be in some way connected to temporal lobe epilepsy. Just triggering parts of something electrical happening in the brain that triggers parts of your mind, which are sometimes or usually involved in memory, actually. And then so that's why you have that feeling that it's a memory, even though you're experiencing it for the first time. But I mean, I don't think people really know. I don't think anyone, even scientists, really know why it's happening. These are just alternate explanations.
Well, speaking of the Matrix, that's an alternate explanation too. So are we living in a simulation?
Right. Well,
Oh my God, are we living in a simulation?
so
I
because
find it terrifying.
because Arnold was in the Matrix, wasn't he?
No, I wasn't in the Matrix.
Are you sure?
No, I've never been in the Matrix. It was my friend Keanu.
I think Arnold's more
I
believable
know Kung Fu.
as Neo.
Arnold would have been a great Neo. What? I took both pills. I know it all. No, so if we're living in a simulation, that idea that somebody changed the programming. So yeah, Berenstein used to be spelled with an E instead of an A, but somebody changed that later on. You know, but we remember the original programming of the simulation, but when we look back, when you're looking at the book, you know.
I want to go to the store right now and pick up a box of Fruit Loops because
Right.
it cannot be
Fruit Loops.
OT.
But so what you think of, you might have seen like the multi-meal knockoff, like Fruit Circles or whatever, or Fruit Rings.
Yeah, Fruit Rings. Shopping on the lower shelf again.
Yeah. Right? But that idea that, you know, are we really outside talking to each other right now? Is Wendy really in Madison
I don't know.
away on the computer? or are we all in pods with
Yeah.
something stuck to our heads?
or you know, did you really hear Laurel or was it Yanni?
No, I heard Yanni because I love new age music. That's my thing. No, but that's another idea of different perceptions. So
Right.
if you guys have been on the internet lately, you've heard the Laurel versus Yanni.
Yeah, you can't get away from it.
So when you say Laurel at lower volumes, or I mean, so lower
Frequencies.
lower frequencies, lower pitch, like Laurel.
I still hear Laurel.
Versus Laurel.
I still
Well,
hear
that
Laurel.
sounds Laurel to
I
me.
read an article too that said that the way that he's stating it also has something to do with it, where like it's not as the different hard things.
Oh,
are
it's sloppy.
kind of like Laurel, like more gentle, less. You know what I mean? Less. So
I see.
That had
So-
it's
so
a
if it's-
combination
so it's
of the frequencies as well as the manner in which he's saying it. Like the article I read had a person who's a linguist, I guess. Is that what you call it?
A cunning one.
No.
I knew you were gonna do that.
Oh, come on, the softballs. The softballs
my
throw themselves.
God.
And they said that when he said Laurel, he's not hitting the roof of his mouth with the tongue for the L's, and that kind of thing. So
Laurel.
try it. Laurel.
It
said Yanni. Here, wait, let me try it once.
See?
Yanni.
Okay.
Yanni.
She got me. I finally heard Yanni.
Oh, thank God.
But our brains, number one, that's an example of we're all listening and observing things through our own filter, number one.
And we'll link to that in the show notes if you haven't had a chance to listen to that actual file yet. If you're the last person left on the internet
On
hasn't heard
Earth.
it.
Right. So if you listen to a podcast yet don't have a Facebook, Twitter, or
Yeah.
Instagram account,
I find that unlikely.
right,
Just in
and haven't
case.
seen one of your jerk friends posting it, being like, "I hear Yanni." All right. And so, but that also it's part of the frequencies, and part of the people, the older people,
Yeah.
have less high frequencies because we've had our hearing beaten down. over the
Another
years
crushing blow.
by loud, obnoxious young people. has ruined our high frequency here.
That's right. I'm done with high frequency,
Right.
apparently.
So the problem is too many damn kids in our yard.
Get off
Really?
my grass.
Right. Do you ever wonder why people care about grass so much they never use it?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, why do you mow the lawn? You never even walk
So
on
it looks perfect.
You know, I know. It always get off my lawn.
Yeah, so we should
It's
be
like, you haven't-
questioning that too. Why do we need perfect lawns,
You haven't used
man?
that. You haven't used that lawn since 1968. You old bag. Anyway. So, I mean, the Mandela effect. A lot of times we're just remembering the wrong thing, and then what we're trying to do is we're trying to put meaning on something. All the time. I mean, that's what humans do. We put meaning on things so we can evade predators. You know, we look at something like, ooh, that could be a tiger.
Yes.
Right? And so that's part of our evolution is trying to observe something and then attach a meaning to it because
Quickly.
we don't got big teeth. like the
But this is all we have.
like the Fruit Loops guru.
All we have is the Fruit Loop guru.
We don't have big teeth. We don't have claws.
That's gonna be a T-shirt. People, come on, the Fruit Loop guru.
That could be
love
that
it.
could be our first See Another Side custom T-shirt, like the one that, not the logo, but the actual Fruit Loops guru. No, but that whole idea that we have to attach meaning to things because that's how humans survive.
Right. And this is what we've got. We've got the Mandela effect. We got the Yanni and the Laurel. We've got the two different colored dresses.
That's colored dresses. Yeah,
I mean, but
that was last year. Actually, last year at this time.
was it?
Was the color? Because I remember I was in New Orleans at the time, and somebody was like, "What color do you see?" And I'm like,
Who cares?
I see you wasting my time."
Felt like a lot longer ago than
But
that.
yeah, so this is what we have. We have this perception, and we're supposed to jump to conclusions, so we get out of the way of that tiger. And if you look like a complete dork running away from nothing, hey, that's okay. But if you're like, oh man, I'm skeptical of that being a tiger, you're dead.
Right. The next thing you know, your head's in the tiger's jaw.
That's right. So, but I think, what we take away from all of this is all these human perception debates, really give us another opportunity for critical thinking.
Well, and I think that's a good point because earlier on, I was making that point about how, like, atheists have a team, Christians have a team, paranormal weirdos have a team, and we all have our sides. And then this person's like me. I'm going to pick his side. I'm going to pick her side because they're like me. And then those other people are on the other side.
Yeah.
That's another evolutionary thing that we're using for protection, that we're using for creation of groups and tribes and all that. Tribes help us against the tigers. Tribes help us against famine.
Tribes help us against the atheists.
Tribes help us against the other tribes. And that's the whole point. You pick your tribe, and then it's my tribe, right or wrong. My country, right or wrong. All those things. And when you said critical thinking, that's the whole idea. Mandela effect is all part of these evolutionary psychological things that happen to us that they're meant to do. And unless we think critically, we can't get to the truth.
Yeah, you're going to fall into the same rut. And I think these things came about because of evolution. But where will evolution take us? That's the next thing to think about.
Werewolves.
And Loop gurus, Fruit Loop gurus. But anyway, psychedelic werewolf, baby. I'm just thinking that we need to think of future perception and think of how can we come together, our different tribes, unite.
Think about it like this. Think about how Google has changed the world. So the Guinness Book of World Records was created so that people would have less fights in bars.
You mean fewer?
Oh, well, I remember it being less, not fewer, so I'm just misremembering. Actually, what's happening, I remember you not being an ass.
I remember your brain being less.
So, all right, I remember you not being a pedantic jerk.
That's another debate. Is it less or is it fewer? It's definitely fewer people, but nobody gets it right anymore. Nobody bothers.
But we can talk about is how things evolve, and so the Guinness Book of World Records is created so there'd be fewer fights in bars. So that's why Guinness is the sponsor. So when you're saying that the world's tallest man is 7.5 feet tall or whatever, you have a place to look at.
You just blew my mind. So it was to stop bar brawling.
So people would, when they have conversations in bars, then they
would really fight about that.
Well, hey, Guinness is an Irish drink, and they call them the Fighting Irish for a reason.
Yeah, they're looking for a reason.
And Allison and I can say that because we're Irish.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
and also combative.
Just covering my bases here.
Yes. We will fight you on that.
Anyway, so that's the idea. But now with Google, you don't need the Guinness Book of World Records. With Google, you don't even have that great of a memory because you can Google it.
Right, and you can also just end conversations instantly. Like when you're debating things or discussing things, like, well, let's find out. Let's just find out the truth.
Yeah. It reminds me of the shallows, too, how the internet is changing our brains.
It's absolutely changing our brains. And the calculators changed our brains with math. That's why we have to have a new kind of way, or Common Core or whatever like that. Figure a new way to do math in your head, because the old way of doing math in our head was like, okay,
carry the one.
And then we're like, wait, we don't have to do it the hard way anymore because God gave us calculators.
Right.
Gave us a calculator like that we carry around all the time. So we have to do it. So now you got to figure out a new way for people that aren't carrying around. They have a new way to do math in their head. And so technology, we talk about, has changed the way our minds work. Has it changed the way our memory? Is it going to change the way our memories work? Now that, because I think about that, I have a database of the past 12 years of every single day. I can tell you what went on. Right? I can tell you what I did, where I went, all that kind of stuff. And so is that going to change my memory and how I think about the past? And as it goes on, as kids start doing that when they're not when they're 30 years old or 25 years old, like when I started, they start doing it when they're 5 years old. Is that going to change? We remember our youth. So we're going to remember our parents' failures at a much earlier level than we used to. Anyway, well, that's funny because that's what this week's song is about. This week's song is about how it's about yearning for a different time, even if you're yearning for a time that only exists in your memory and not in reality. So this song is called Pretend.
I think I lost you along the road,
because I didn't know how to grow up.
maybe that's why I feel so old.
My life flashes before my eyes,
Maybe we can talk over a beer.
about the way we think things ought to be.
We can try to remember how we got here.
And whatever became of me, wouldn't it be fun to pretend that the earth was round and we were 16 again? We could drive all night until the sun comes up, my friend, and I'll listen for your name in the wind.
And I think I missed the train.
Well, I guess I should have bought a ticket.
I don't think I ever changed.
Time slipped by and I'm still the same.
We were running hand in hand.
I didn't know you'd go so fast.
That's why I just don't understand
How you reached your destination and I'm still living in the past. Wouldn't it be fun to pretend that the earth was round and we were 16 again? We could drive all night till the sun comes up, my friend, and I'll listen for your name in the wind.
I'm the last
Well, I'm the last one standing here.
just a relic.
I'm just a relic in the museum of our lives.
I'll be waiting.
Well, I'll be waiting when you come back. I'll be the one who's just a step behind the time. Wouldn't it be fun to pretend that the earth was round and we were 16 again? We could drive all night until the sun comes up, my friend, and I'll listen for your name in the wind. I listen for your name in the wind.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at OthersidePodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
So let's not forget that we're hanging out this Wednesday with the Patreon
Yay!
community.
Hangout Wednesday is my favorite Wednesday.
Hangout Wednesday is my favorite. We all get on Google Hangouts. We wear a paranormal T-shirt. We grab a glass of our favorite beverage, and then we talk about paranormal stories or our favorite movies, things we discussed on the podcast, ideas for new podcasts, and it's just a great time to hang out with the people that help make this happen. So, Wendy, if I wanted to help make See You on the Other Side happen, what would I do?
What you do, Mike, is you would visit othersidepodcast.com/donate and join our Patreon community.
Oh, Patreon community. You mean the community of people who are the coolest badasses on the entire planet and help make intelligent paranormal discussion real in
That's
our universe.
exactly the people I'm talking about. Yes.
I love those people. Don't forget one of our best Patreons, Dr. Ned, for helping See You on the Other Side happen every single month. Dr. Ned is on the level of Patreon where he gets a shout out in every single episode. If you would like to join him in the Patreon Hall of Fame, the See You on the Other Side pantheon of mortal gods, then you will visit othersidepodcast.com/donate.
Thank you.
There's a world where Fruit Loops is spelled UI. I find your lack of faith disturbing. I am Fruit.